The Prepper Emergency Fund is the survival tool that saves more lives than any knife, any filter, or any firearm. Yet most preppers completely ignore it. You have the $2,000 rifle, the 6-month food supply, a go bag that could outlast a nuclear winter, and somewhere in the garage, probably a plate carrier you have worn twice. Now answer this honestly. If your car's transmission blew out tomorrow, could you cover it without touching a credit card? According to RepairPal data, the average transmission replacement in 2025 runs between $4,000 and $7,000. If your boss handed you a pink slip this Friday, how many months could you stay in your house before the math stopped working? Transmission cost. Like that break, families, most survivalists are prepping hard for the 1% scenario, the grid-down collapse, and the societal breakdown, and they are leaving the 100% scenario completely exposed. Job losses, medical bills, a blown engine, a burst pipe, these are not edge cases. They are the actual emergencies that will hit your life, and no amount of tactical gear handles any of them. Today, we are talking about financial preparedness, specifically building the Prepper Emergency Fund from the ground up. The boring crisis versus the Hollywood crisis survival content runs on big stakes. That is not a criticism, it is just how the format works. But there is a gap between what gets clicks and what actually threatens your household, and that gap is costing people real money. The Bureau of Labor Statistics recorded more than 1.7 million layoffs and discharges across the U.S. economy in December 2025 alone. That is the cold monthly average that does not make headlines, and it lands on regular people in regular months. Meanwhile, the odds of a full-scale grid collapse or societal breakdown in any given year sit at a fraction of a percent. The more concrete comparison is a transmission failure. That single repair costs most families between $4,000 and $7,000, based on 2025 data from RepairPal and Consumer Affairs. A Bankrate survey conducted in early 2026 found that 53% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency from savings without borrowing. More than 40% report having no emergency fund at all. Read that again. 4 in 10 people, many of whom might have a well-stocked pantry and a go bag by the door, cannot handle a blown water heater without reaching for a credit card. The conversation about gold and silver comes up constantly in prepper circles. And to be clear, precious metals have a legitimate place in a serious long-term prep plan. But they sit at what most financial preparedness thinkers call level 10, a hedge for extreme, multi-year economic collapse. Silver and gold cannot pay your electric bill this Tuesday. They cannot be handed to a mechanic. A $1,200 silver position means nothing if your rent is due and your landlord does not deal in bullion. The harder truth is that every dollar spent on a tactical vest or an expensive piece of kit, while carrying credit card debt or holding zero cash savings, is a dollar working against your preparedness. It is the opportunity cost that no one talks about in this space. I want to be direct here. The 50% figure that 50% of people cannot cover a $1,000 emergency is from Bankrate's verified 2026 Emergency Savings Report. I see this statistic misquoted everywhere online, sometimes inflated to 78% or rounded up without a source. I use the verified number only. If you are watching a channel that throws around scarier sounding stats without citations, that is a red flag. Financial preparedness works in layers. Think of it as a liquidity ladder. Each tier handles a different class of crisis, and each one needs to be in place before the next one matters. Tier 1 is the cash stash. Keep between $500 and $1,000 in physical bills at home in small denominations, $1 bills, $5 bills, and $10 bills. The reason for small bills is practical. When a power outage takes down card readers, a business that is still operating will struggle to make change from a $100 bill. Small bills give you flexibility. This money lives in your home in a fireproof container or a hidden location only you know about. It covers short-duration crises, the first 24 to 72 hours of a localized outage, a quick emergency run, and anything that requires cash when the digital economy is offline. Tier 2 is the core financial buffer. This is 3 to 6 months of living expenses held in a high-yield savings account or money market account, often called a HYSA. This distinction matters. As of February 2026, the national average savings account pays 0.39% annual percentage yield, according to FDIC data. Top-tier online HYSA accounts are paying between 4% and 4.2% annual percentage yield at federally insured institutions. That's a gap of roughly 10 times in earnings on the same money, just for moving it to the right account type. 3 to 6 months of expenses is the standard guidance from FEMA, the American Red Cross, and most certified financial planners. It's enough to cover a job loss, a major medical event, or a significant home repair without going into debt. The key word is liquid. In a real economic crisis, the ability to access your money immediately is a survival skill, not a financial convenience. An account you can transfer out of in one business day is categorically more useful than one tied up in a certificate of deposit or an investment account subject to market swings. Tier 3 is not a bank account. It is a marketable skill. If the economy softens, not collapses, the ability to fix something, build something, or solve a problem for a neighbor has tangible economic value. Phrases like "I can rebuild your generator" or "I do electrical work" are forms of barter that hold up in a soft economic downturn. A box of ammo or a pile of freeze-dried food does not. This tier is the long game layer built over time, and it costs almost nothing except consistent practice. The Tier 2 high yield savings account math is verified directly against current Bankrate and NerdWallet data as of this recording. The specific rate of 4.09 to 4.21% annual percentage yield is accurate for February 2026 at institutions like Open Bank and Climate First Bank. I did not name a specific bank as a recommendation. Rates change, and this is not financial advice. The point is the category, not the brand. Run the comparison yourself at fdic.gov or any major financial aggregator. Inventory as an inflation hedge. Here's where financial prepping and traditional prepping actually overlap, and it's the part most people in both communities miss. A deep pantry is not just food storage, it is a financial instrument. Think about how inflation works. Consumer prices rose 26% between December 2019 and late 2024, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index data. That means a product that cost $4 in 2019 cost just over $5 in 2024. If you bought a 6-month supply of that product in 2019 at $4 per unit, you effectively locked in a 26% return on that portion of your budget over 5 years. No market risk, no fees, no volatility. The practical version of this is simple. Buy shelf-stable goods when they go on sale and buy more than you need for the week. Canned goods, dried beans, rice, pasta, oats, cooking oil. These hold for months or years when stored correctly. Buying them at a 30% sale price versus buying them at full retail the week you need them creates a measurable spread that compounds over time. One straightforward example. A family that spends $150 a week on groceries could realistically reduce that to $105 to $110 by cycling through sale purchases and rotating a deep pantry, a savings of roughly $2,000 to $2,400 annually. That is not a hypothetical. That is simple unit price math available at any grocery store with a sale circular. The rotation discipline is what makes this work. Stock goes in from the back, older stock comes out from the front. Nothing gets wasted if the system runs correctly. This is exactly how commercial food operations manage inventory, and there is no reason a prepared household cannot run the same model. I want to address one thing directly. I did not invent an average family food savings statistic with a made-up source. You will see channels throw out numbers like studies show the average prepper saves $4,500 a year on groceries with no citation attached. The $2,000 to $2,400 figure I used is derived from basic math on a realistic grocery budget, nothing more. The Consumer Price Index data is verified BLS data. If you want to run the numbers for your own household, use the USDA monthly food cost reports as a baseline. Avoiding prepper debt. the 22% leak. Here is a number that should concern every prepper, 22.3%. That is the average APR on credit card accounts carrying a balance in November 2025, according to the Federal Reserve's G.19 Consumer Credit Report. New card offers are averaging 23.77%, according to LendingTree data from the same period. Run that math in plain terms. If you carry $5,000 in credit card debt at 22.3% and you make only minimum payments, you will pay well over $1,100 in interest per year. That is money going directly to a bank instead of into your emergency fund, your pantry, or your gear budget. Credit card debt is the single most efficient way to be financially unprepared because it silently drains the resources you would otherwise use to build resilience. And here is the hidden cost most people miss. Carrying that high interest debt also damages your credit score and FICO score, which increases the cost of future borrowing for everything from car loans to mortgages. The operating principle is simple. You are not financially prepared if you are carrying high interest debt. A paid-off credit card and a $3,000 high-yield savings account will protect your household against far more realistic threats than any kit loaded with premium gear bought on a balance that costs you 22% annually to maintain. The gear trap is real. Survival marketing is excellent, and the products are genuinely interesting, but there is a decision tree worth running before any gear purchase. Does this address a likely scenario I have not already covered? Do I have zero or low interest debt? Is my Tier 1 cash in place? Is my high-yield savings account funded to at least 1 month of expenses? If the answer to any of those is no, that purchase should wait. The stealth wealth layer is one that gets too little attention in prepper content. Financial resilience isn't just about having money, it's about protecting access to it. An identity theft event, a fraudulent account takeover, or a single point account freeze can cut off access to your funds at exactly the moment you need them. Having a secondary checking or savings account at a different institution operating under a different banking relationship reduces that single point of failure risk. It's the financial equivalent of having a backup water source, basic redundancy. A clean digital footprint, meaning minimal exposure of sensitive financial data online, frozen credit files with the 3 major bureaus when you're not applying for credit, and multi-factor authentication on all financial accounts is not paranoia. It is standard security practice that most Americans skip until they're already a victim. The Federal Reserve G19 data on credit card annual percentage rates is published monthly and is public record. The 22.3% figure is for accounts assessed interest as of November 2025. That is the number that matters, not the all accounts figure that includes people who pay in full and carry no interest. I use the more accurate, harder-hitting number because it represents the real cost of carrying a balance. This distinction matters, and most financial content glosses over it. Actionable prepper budgeting. None of this is useful without a practical framework that actually fits how preppers think and spend. So here are 2 tools that work. The one in, one out rule says, for every discretionary purchase in the survival or preparedness category, an equal dollar amount goes into the emergency fund. Buy a $200 piece of kit, then $200 goes into the high-yield savings account the same day. This isn't punishment. It is the kind of systematic constraint that actually builds savings without requiring someone to abandon the hobby. It just requires that the financial prep keeps pace with the physical prep. Over 6 months of consistent one in, one out execution, a person spending $200 a month on gear would have contributed $1,200 to their emergency fund, enough to cover Tier 1 cash and make a meaningful start on Tier 2. The habit stacks. The side income question is more important than most prepper budgets account for. 2 streams of income are more valuable than 2 bug-out vehicles. The second income does not need to be large to be meaningful. A few $100s a month from a skill-based side income, such as mechanical work, welding, food preservation consulting, firearm cleaning, or garden design, creates a financial buffer that also happens to be a marketable Tier 3 skill. It closes the loop. The Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics has consistently tracked that households with 2 earners or 2 income streams show significantly stronger financial resilience across every category of economic disruption, including job loss, health emergency, and regional disaster. 1 income is a single point of failure. 2 incomes is redundancy, a concept every prepper in this audience already understands. One practical starting point for anyone watching this is to calculate your monthly survival number tonight. Not your full budget, your survival number. It is the minimum monthly cost to stay housed, fed, and connected to utilities. That number multiplied by 3 is your first high-yield savings account target. That number multiplied by 6 is your full Tier 2 goal. Write it down, put it somewhere visible. The fund cannot be built in the abstract. The 1 in, 1 out rule is not from a specific study. It is a practical personal finance framework I am presenting as a method, not a cited finding. I want to be clear about that distinction. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics on dual income household resilience shows a documented pattern in their consumer expenditure surveys, though I have summarized it as a principle rather than pulling a single study statistic, which would not be honest to the complexity of that data set. What to remember. The gap in most preparedness plans is not gear. It is not training. It is financial liquidity, the boring, unglamorous foundation that everything else depends on. A 72-hour emergency kit with a well-stocked emergency fund behind it is a genuinely prepared household. A 72-hour emergency kit sitting on top of $8,000 in credit card debt and 0 savings is a well-equipped household that is 1 car repair away from a financial emergency. The financial fortress is not complicated. It is physical cash at home in small bills, 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account earning actual interest, a deep pantry that hedges against inflation, no high-interest debt eating into your resources, and at least 2 income sources protecting against a single-point failure. This week's challenge: open your banking app tonight and find your survival number, the minimum monthly cost to keep your household running. Multiply it by 3. That is your first savings target. Open a separate account if you do not have one. Transfer what you can. That is one decision. It takes about 15 minutes, and it is more likely to protect you in the next 2 years than almost any other preparedness move you could make. If this kind of content covers ground that most channels skip, subscribe. We put out financial preparedness and practical survival content every week, and the next video covers the specific accounts, the specific setup, and exactly how the 3-tier system gets built from 0. You do not want to miss it.